Do you know what? I think I'm going to change the name of this series from Goes for a Drive or Taken for a Ride to Blimey. I don't remember the last time I saw one of them, because yet again, we have a car which my first reaction was blimey. I don't remember the last time I saw one of them when I found this car parked in a gym car park when I parked my Alfa next to it. And this is a daily driver, which is what it's meant to be. Between 1986 and 1990, this was Nissan's big fleet seller. A daily driver, a company car for as many people as they could flog them to, frankly. If you got a minicab anywhere in the British Isles between, well, 1986 and about 2010, there was a good chance it was going to be one of these, and with good reason. It may not have captured your imagination the moment you saw it, but boy were these things built tough, and they go on forever. This car is a 1989 Bluebird Premium, which means it's 30 years old. But look at it. Okay, it's just been washed, but still, it looks fresh as a daisy. This red paint hasn't faded. Okay, the wheel trim's a little scuffed, but that can't be helped. Even the black trim looks good. They built these things tough up in Sunderland. At some point in the early 80s, a memo went around and it said, stop doing squares and angles, start doing curves and blancmange shapes. And Audi and Ford got it because the Audi 80 and Audi 100 and the Ford Sierra were very blancmange and jelly mouldy, as they were called at the time. However, certain companies like Vauxhall with the Mark II Cavalier and Nissan with this were still very much in the set square era. And if you look at this, it is absolutely angles and corners everywhere, which makes it look a little bit older than its actual age. So this is a 1989 car, but you could almost be fooled into thinking it was from a mainstream manufacturer from 10 years previous, but it's not. This model came out in 1986, lasted until 1990. This is a premium model, which means it's got a few extras, like the body colour, lower trim, stuff. Actually, the premium sits kind of at the bottom of the range. It's sort of below the LS and the LX, but it does get power steering and tinted windows. The Bluebird Premium came with a 4-cylinder engine, a 5-speed gearbox, disc front brakes, and power steering. Externally, you got the two-tone bodywork, two-tone wheel trims, driver and passenger door mirrors. Get that, 2 door mirrors, although not electric. Bronze tinted windows, side graphics, a body-coloured radiator grille, body side mouldings, halogen headlights, and an integral fog light. Not to mention side repeater indicators. Inside, cloth seats, inertia reel, rear seat belts, tilt adjustable steering, and a 2-spoke soft steering wheel. The engines start with this 1.6 litre 83 horsepower unit, going up to the 1.8 normally aspirated and 1.8 turbo, and there's also a 2 litre available with manual and automatic, and of course there's a 2 litre diesel making a whopping 67 horsepower, not including special editions. The range goes LS, LX, GS, GSX, ZX, then Estate L and Estate GL. So this body shape is known as the T12, and it was built from 1986 to 1990, and it was the second generation of the T11 platform, which was known as the Stanza in UK and Europe. But it was, I think, about the 9th generation of Bluebird. The Bluebird name ran from 1957 up to about 2006. But it might still even be around in some markets. So clearly the team who designed the interior also failed to get the memo about curves being in and straight lines being out, because this is still a square line or square straight line throwback design language. Everything is sort of blocks and rectangles, and the same heating ventilation control panel as you'll find in everything from a Nissan Maxima to a Toyota MR2 makes an appearance above a Blaupunkt radio. I'm quite surprised to see a German Blaupunkt stereo in a British-made Japanese car. It's a very practical interior. You've got lots of cubby holes. You've got a little square cubby here under the radio, a little kind of deeper oblong one, which is just the right size to drop a phone into, had they been invented in 1989. There's a little kind of deep dashboard for notebooks and pens and things, credit cards and receipts under the radio. A big ashtray for rubbish and stuff. And just in case anything does go wrong, the fuse box is under a little flap down here with a nice little neat handle on it. Very tidy. You've even got map/door pockets, just big enough for bits of paper really, and a fairly sizable glove box. The tea-shelf isn't particularly adequate though, I've got to say. It slopes back at just a couple of degrees, so if your tea was particularly full, it would probably spill, so marks off just there. I'm going to have to start doing like a Matt score, but like a Doug score, but for British retros and things. And yeah, as well as everyday use, practicality and style, there will be a tea-shelf category. This car was designed for fleet sales. That was a big target audience. A British built car for British fleets, because back in the 80s and the 90s as well, fleet buyers were king. Company cars were a big perk for a lot of employees, and so selling to that market was absolutely crucial. Ford, Vauxhall, Peugeot, they all did it, and Nissan wanted in. And every generation of the Bluebird, going back to 1957 when it originated, was available as a taxi variant from the factory. I'm not sure how many of the UK taxis that were Bluebirds over the years were taxi variants or just Bluebirds, and so it wasn't really an issue whether you bought a taxi variant or just Bluebird, because it was going to do the job. There were loads of trim levels. You could be the new boy just starting out and get a 1.6L or LX, or you could be a high-level executive and have your 2-litre or 1.8 turbo, the executive model for executives. The car is just enormously comfortable. The seats are big, fairly soft, but they are quite, you don't sink too far in. It's softer than a Vauxhall, harder than a Ford. Very, very hard wearing fabric on it. This car's only got 51, or nearly 52,000 miles, which is barely run in for one of these things. Apart from a little bit of bagging on this driver's seat, there's virtually no wear in them at all. In the back of the car, the seats are really quite spacious. There's loads of room in them. The two main chairs, there are 3 seat belts across the back, but the 2 main seats have integrated headrests in there, so a little bit of safety going on there, which is nice. And as this was a fleet market car, everything is designed for ease of use and comfort. So you've got nice big sized mirrors, which I'm assuming are electrically adjustable, because I can't see any mechanical adjusters anywhere near them. But that said, I can't see an electrical adjuster easily to hand either. So I'm assuming it must be electric. You don't get out and push it with your fingers. The steering wheel is quite big, got big air vents, and easy controls. Well, that's a Japanese car. The indicator and wiper layout is the British contemporary style now, as the indicators are on the left. But these controls are just so blocky. It's like a long extended cube, a rectangular almost, with a little knurled drum on the end. Very curious. Pre-airbag, so you've got a big plastic lump in the middle of the steering wheel. Just a Nissan badge and a couple of horn buttons. Won't toot now, run around about. If you were a company driver putting in the miles on the motorways, you would have appreciated the light controls, the comfy seats, the spacious interior. With a 0 to 60 of 12.2 seconds and a top speed of 103, this is more about the comfort game and economy rather than out and out performance. It's front wheel drive, as is to be expected on a saloon or hatch of this era, and the ride is generally quite squishy and soft rather than firm and bouncy and dynamic. But as I say, if you're putting in the miles, and if you're a mini cabber doing 100,000 miles a year, your back could have been forever grateful to those engineers who set this up in that way. In the marketing, they described it as a British designed car set up for British and European driving styles and European roads, but to be honest, if anything, it's more of an American feel to it. It's kind of a bit, wallowy is not exactly the right word, but it's kind of soft and gentle and forgiving. These seats, rather than having a turny dial to adjust them, they have a single pull lever, and that lets you pull forward or push back, just making it very quick and very easy to adjust and get comfortable in the car straight away as soon as you get in. The gear change is very light. It's a little bit rubbery and a little notchy in places, but on the whole, it's quite good. And let's face it, if you're mini cabbing around Leeds, you'll be in third the whole time anyway. Well, third and fifth. And that was another thing. There were, as well as the 1.6 and 2 litre petrols, both of which were the 8-valve CA series engine, which was new for the previous generation car, the T11 Stanza, as it was in the UK. There was also a 2 litre diesel the mini cabber's favourite, 4,000 miles to the gallon, give or take, as long as you stay in fifth gear most of the time. And that was the thing. It may not have been as dynamically as exciting as a rear-wheel drive Sierra, but it was astonishingly reliable. Nissan's reputation was for cars that just didn't break, and this went on to, well, confirm that really, because they just didn't break. And even 25 years on, it's not uncommon to see these things knocking around still in daily use. In fact, this car is in daily use with its owner, and it looks astonishingly clean. But as interesting as this car is, the backstory of how it came to be is actually even more exciting. Well, interesting, I suppose, rather than exciting. Because when it came to produce this vehicle, Nissan needed a new plant in the UK, and going back to the early 80s, so about 1983-84, they've been looking at a greenfield site to rejuvenate the old industrial heartland of the northeast. And in 1986, the Sunderland plant opened up, and this was the first car, or this model, that's the exact car, this model was the first thing built by Nissan's UK northeast plant, which has gone on to produce millions of things since then, and literally millions of cars. I think they've done like 1 million Qashqais up there. I think with this car, everything is just so light to the touch. It's really, really easy to drive. The pedals are light, the gear change is light, if a little rubbery and notchy. The steering is light. This is just a high mileage, relaxing vehicle. If you wanted to daily drive a retro car that was not going to let you down, this would absolutely be it. God, it's hot. As with most other retro cars I drive, the one thing I would change about this was adding air conditioning. I'm not a great lover of heat, as I've mentioned before. Thanks for watching this episode. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this run around and look at a British-built Japanese car from 30 years ago. Once was everywhere and now is nowhere. There's about 1,200 of these left apparently, maybe 1,300. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe. Let's get that subscriber count up so we can share the joy of retro loveliness with more people. If you didn't like it, keep that to yourself. Don't give me the bad news, it just ruins my day. I'll see you next time.